Let's welcome to the stage Moses Kumar, General Secretary and Treasurer of the General Council on Finance and Administration, and he's going to enlighten us about the 4 areas of focus and our church budget. Let's give him some love as he comes to the stage.
Good afternoon. How are you all doing so far? So far, so good. Well, I was traveling here by a cab, and the taxi guy said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Nashville, Tennessee." And I said, 25 years ago, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I loved it, and it's really good. And he said, "When are you going back?" I said, "I most probably might be going sometime soon from here. But later on, I'll be coming back here to live here for 3 weeks." And he said, "Then you won't go back," he said. He said, "This is the best city you can ever dream of." He said he moved from Boston, and he's been there. My time is clicking, so I better not tell any more stories here. Well, I had the privilege of going to Manila, Philippines in March of 2015. You know, it's a long flight. If anybody have gone to that far, the city, it's a very, very long flight. And by the time you reach there, and you're so tired, your face almost looks like the picture that you have in your passport. You know, and it's just, that's the time you recognize your passport, that you feel like you're the same there. But after going there, and I went to the hotel, a guy came to me, a very young guy came to me and said, "Mr. Kumar," I said, "How do you know me? I already know your name, but I came here to welcome to Manila." And he also said, "Thank you for coming here, first of all. The second thing, I also want to thank you because if not for the money that you guys sent to us, I will not be a social worker here." And I said, "What do you mean by this?" He said, "You know, the apportionment dollars that you gave to us, you know, I was able to study." And he took me to the place where he grew up. And I want to say, this is where he grew up, in the dumps. And a couple of slides, you see, this is the house that he lived. And he was able to say thank you to me because of you guys, that you were able to give that funding to him so that he could be a social worker and go back to the same place and make others to go back. So I want to say thank you. Thank you. I also want to say thank you because this is a record year for us in 2015. I am with so much joy. We have about 26 annual conferences. I've given 100% to the apportionment. Praise be to God. This is a history made for us. The next important thing, there are some annual conferences like CalPAC. If you're a CalPAC delegate, can you raise your hand someplace? I want to let you know, guys, the last time I went and searched the record, the electronic records that we have is 1998. It never said anything about the percentage that he paid. This is the first time ever they paid 100%. Praise be to God, guys. Thank you so much. All of this thing can happen, and all the ministries can happen because of you. So I want to say thank you. I wanted to invite to the stage my dear friend, Dr. Samuel Royappa. He's the council director at Wisconsin. He's also a delegate at the General Conference. He's going to talk more about some of the joyful thankfulness that's happening in our denomination. Dr. Pastor Brown.
Thank you, Brother Moses. This is a great opportunity for me to talk about the ministries that we share together as a United Methodist Connection. I bring you greetings from the Wisconsin Annual Conference, and I'm so excited to share with you this afternoon about how we are connected and how we are related in many ministries. There are a lot of exciting things happening in the United Methodist Church. E. Stanley Jones, a great missionary, Methodist missionary, said, "Christian giving is Christian loving," because our great commandment is all about loving God and loving people. Apportionment giving is about sharing God's love with people of all ages nations, and races. Our connectional giving, our prayers, our gifts, our service, our witness make a significant difference in the lives of God's people around the world. One of the 7 apportionment funds is the Ministerial Education Fund, and I want to share with you some of the real stories why our giving makes a difference in the lives of people. In the Wisconsin Annual Conference alone, we have 31 who are the recipients of the Ministerial Education Fund. One recipient is a 24-year-old seminary student on elder track who serves part-time. This is what she shared with us. Quote, "When I felt called to go to seminary right after college, I was nervous about the debt that I would continue to acquire from student loans. The church has generously helped me to be less nervous by providing me with a scholarship. I cannot express how appreciative I am for the generosity of their scholarships. Through their gift, I am able to better look forward to my life of ministry where I may serve God as best as I can." Our denomination has identified 4 areas of focus for our ministry in the world. Creating new places for young people, new people, and diverse people is one of the top priorities. A 30-month-old second-generational Spanish-English bilingual church has been growing from nothing to 100 in worship attendance. It's called Urban Poima United Methodist Church. It is supported by the General Church Apportionment through National Hispanic Plan. A lay member of this community says, quote, "This is the real deal people who are Jesus followers, taking time for one another, carrying each other's burdens, laughing, crying, and working together as a family. We are not perfect, but Christ is. And we are here for you. Come and join us." This community is generating excitement and involvement in the Milwaukee area on 2 campuses. The average membership age is 28 years. The Madison Korean United Methodist Ministry is another new church plant that has been quick to explore ways to connect with their community. They have found that exam season at nearby University of Wisconsin is the perfect time to sell homemade traditional Korean food to hungry students, which raises money and raises awareness for missions supported by the church. This ministry is supported by the National Korean Plan, and that is also part of the General Church Apportionment. This is what Pastor Han put in the Facebook the first week of his appointment. Quote, "As some of you may know, I was newly appointed to the new Korean church planted in Madison since July 1. No member, no building, and no office. I am in a Starbucks now at this moment. But there are some things: the vision of God, supportive friends, including my DS, and your prayers. Yes, please pray for me and my family so that we could be a seed for God's church. One more. If you have a friend who is looking for the Korean church in Madison, call me right now. Peace." Today, after 2 years, they are averaging 51 in worship attendance, 41 students, 10 working adults. There are 5 small groups. In addition, this past year, they raised funds and sent it to UMCOR for Nepal earthquake relief work. They sold kimchi, the most popular Korean food, and raised funds for the Imagine No Malaria campaign. Friends, not only are they the recipient of general church funds, they are also giving forward to help others, developing disciples. Connectional giving is an investment. Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount proclaimed, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your God in heaven. Thanks be to God.
Pastor Sam could cover only a few of just one of the 4 areas of focus. There will be a long list of things that he can share about the other 4 areas of focuses also. I wanted to quickly move to talk about the budget process. The development of the budget was done jointly by the General Council of Finance and Administration and the Connectional Table. It represents years of collaborative work between these two groups, the Economic Advisory Committee that provides key economic assumptions in determining the apportionment estimates, the general agencies of the church, our bishops, and other leaders in our denomination. When we started with 4 guiding principles. The goal in this process was to find a way to balance the needs of the ministry of our global denomination with the ability of our congregations to give money to support the work. Through the giving by the people of the United Methodist Church, we can touch a myriad of ministries that impact the lives of people around the globe. The budget will be presented to the delegates at General Conference in a narrative format that shows the impact of our missions instead of just focusing on the figures. The next one is the Economic Advisory Committee and the Advisory Council helps establish a forecast for key economic and financial indicators. We have to be intentional about the ability of our churches to support our connectional ministries, including a work at the general church level and the production of a largest event, the General Conference, each quadrennium. The last factor is a very critical factor. As we moved forward was the Connectional Table's continued development of a long-term process for evaluating missional effectiveness and spending and how all the efforts align with the missional priorities of the United Methodist Church. The next one is we developed a timeline, and so you would see we have accomplished most of this as of now. One of the important things to understand of the budget proposal is there are 2 factors. One is the base percentage, that will be in your report 8, and the net expenditure of the local church. The net expenditure that apportionments are based upon are local church expenditures, excluding capital campaigns and benevolence. I wanted to go through where these funds are allocated to. We have 7 apportionment funds. They are World Service Fund, supporting the 4 areas of focus of the United Methodist Church, calling and shaping principal Christian leaders, creating and sustaining new places for new people, ministry to the poor and poor communities, and abundant health for everyone around the globe. The next fund is the Episcopal Fund. It supports the active and the retired bishops. Then the Ministerial Education Fund, Pastor Sam talked about us today. Black College Fund supports about 11 historical black institutions in the U.S. to maintain academic quality, financial stability, and limiting individual student tuition cost. The next fund is Africa University, which a lot of us are very familiar with. It was started, the doors were opened in 1992. I wanted to kind of say something about Africa University. This is the first year in 2015, we got over 95% was paid towards Africa University. That's a record breaking. So if you go back, tell your annual conference, thank you for that. 94%, never in the history we have made in the payout rate. Then the next fund is the General Administration Fund, finances general church activities that are administrative in nature. General Conference, the General Council of Finance and Administration, Archives and History, and the Judicial Council are funded through that. The last fund is the Interdenominational Cooperation Fund, provides support for organizations that relate to the ecumenical responsibility of the Council of Bishops. You would see the base percentage, which I said the critical factor that is in the development for the apportionment for the local church, is declined every year. I'll explain this a little bit further when we come back to us. Some of you, I see that you're taking pictures of the slides. You don't have to take the pictures, but you can, if you have a mobile app, it's called Connect to GCFA. You can download that, and you can see all the presentation in that also. The next slide would show to us, based on the economic indicators and analysis, the Economic Advisory Committee recommended a budget of $621 million, which would have translated to a base percentage of 3.24%. However, what happened was General Council of Finance and Administration and Connectional Table decided to reduce the base percentage further to 3.19%, thereby reducing the apportionments by $10 million from the Economic Advisory Committee's recommendation. While this is a nominal projected increase of 1.3%, it is a 7.2% real spending decrease with a projected average inflation of 2.5%. It is important to note that 29% of the funding for the general agencies comes from sources other than apportionment. The Economic Advisory Committee will meet again in Nashville on January 26th and 27th, and they will review the figures one more time and say, are we on track? With the recent collapse of the market and other things, they will have some things to worry about, but they will look into the long-term projection of that. The next slide shows about the table. This table depicts the distribution of apportionment to the seven apportionment funds. Then you have the next slide talks about the in the same dollar divided into 4 areas of focus. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you is about the Episcopal Fund and the reserves. A lot of people, when I joined GCFA, I was a conference treasurer at Eastern Pennsylvania. One of the things they talked about is that the reserves of the general church was a major concern. I'm happy to report by 2020, it will be around $78 million for all the 13 agencies. It is intentionally, it's been reduced so that it is used for the ministries because our apportionment dollars is also going down. Now, just focus on the Episcopal Fund. We have an increase where both in terms because of the inflation, the healthcare cost, and also we included the Office of Christian Unity and Interreligious Relations and the Committee on Faith and Order as part of the Episcopal Fund. That increased the next quadrennium by $6.1 million. One may ask, what are you doing about the rising cost of the Episcopal Fund? We have taken some measures. In 2014, we reduced retiree coverage to Medicare Advantage program, saving about $400,000 annually. We restructured the healthcare offering in 2016 with an effort to both promote wellness and improve health for everyone covered by the plan. The new plan saves 10% from the previous structure. You may have heard the discussion about membership levels and the number of bishops for the Northeast jurisdiction. General Conference will decide whether or not to reduce the number of bishops in the Northeast jurisdiction since it has fallen below the membership threshold for the current number of bishops. We can only project an impact on the episcopal fund until after the decision of the General Conference is done. This is an important thing that we are going to introduce that in this General Conference is the Central Conference Apportionment. Bishop Strive, I understand, talked a little bit about that before this morning to you all. Even without this approved formula, I wanted to say that central conferences do participate and contribute to the Episcopal Fund. Those contribution is roughly about $3.8 million in the current quadrennium. Since General Conference 2012, General Council of Finance and Administration has been working with the Standing Committee on Central Conference Matters to develop a formula approach that is equitable and will be viewed as just by the Judicial Council. The proposed formula apportionments both Episcopal and General Administration Fund. It also funds the Standing Committee on Central Conference Matters that is very instrumental in providing the inclusiveness of the voices of everyone throughout the denomination. The formula is based upon a per-member apportionments in the U.S. for both in the Episcopal and General Administration funds and applied to the number of professing members in each central conference. This is then adjusted by an economic modifier. The economic modifier proposed in the formula is the GDP per capita for each country per area in relation to the U.S. The next slide gives the modifier for you. If during the break you have any questions about that, please ask me, and some of our staff will be able to explain that further to that. I don't want to go too technical here for you all. The result is, if you see the next slide, the impact of the apportionment formula by region. Overall apportionment will increase by 10% or $357,000 from the current quadrennium. Apportionments in the Philippines and Africa, both area, increased significantly as a percentage from the current contribution. As you could see, Europe currently contributes at a higher rate per member than the US. The apportionment for Europe by formula would decrease. However, I want to thank the leadership in the European Central Conferences that they have expressed the desire and commitment to maintain their apportionment contribution to the current level. They will not reduce it. If this occurs in the Philippines and Africa contribute at 100%, overall apportionment contribution from Central Conference would increase by $2.4 million or 66%. Again, I want to emphasize this is a starting point in the Central Conference apportionments. Here is what I want you to hear from me. When we are generous in our giving, when we are committed to being in ministry around the world, we dedicate our resources so that we can fulfill what God has ordained us to do. Leaders in the church have an excellent track record of using the funds for ministry and programs. United Methodist Church has the mission to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. The United Methodist Church is connectional. What we accomplish together is far greater than what we can accomplish alone. The United Methodist Church has identified 4 areas of focus for us that will aid us in fulfilling our mission as a connection. We see examples of this every day, how it's working. When we work together in the United Methodist Connection, great things happen. Lives are changed. Ministry matters. As I mentioned before, we are committed to pray for you all as you serve during the General Conference time. I'll leave you with this scripture as we continue to pray about our work together. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for our brother Moses? We can take one or two questions.
I've already talked to some people not to ask questions, so. Now, go ahead and ask.
All right, then let's show our brother Moses some love. You do have a display, don't you? There's a display out there. He will be around for the remainder if you have any questions that are burning, and you can ask him.